All right. Or hello. Hello. All right. Bob was giving me flack about going 1 minute over in my session right before this. So he's, a minute and a half, yeah. He's got me all rattled. I'm going to have to talk really fast now. But we're going to talk about raising your game today, outperforming the norm. And I don't think you heard it in my background, my bio, but I'll just tell you a little bit about it. My master's degree was in sports psychology. And if you don't know what sports psychology is, it's a psychology of working with elite professional level athletes on the mental game of what it takes to be able to train and compete at that highest level. And you might say, well, Scott, what the heck does that have to do with me? Like, I'm not hitting for the Minnesota Twins. I'm not shooting for the Lynx or the Timberwolves and skating for the Wild. Well, what you come to realize is actually the same set of skills and principles that allow high-level athletes to be successful are the things that will allow us to be successful in our personal and professional lives. And because we're here at a leadership conference, we'll specifically talk about a lot of things. What do great coaches, what do great leaders do to be able to get the best out of others? And anytime I'm doing a breakout session for a conference, because I do a lot of speaking, I always like to set of keynotes, which is more hopefully motivational and kind of aspirational. I always like to move from what I say, the information to the implementation. So as far as what we're getting into today, I'm only going to talk to you about 6 different principles, which is actually a decent amount to cram into about 50 minutes. But really in those 6 different things that I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to talk to you about specific ways that you can take that and you can put it into play in your life to be able to be a better leader immediately. Lots of business is built around this, right? If you've ever done maybe a SWOT analysis, or if you've ever gone out and looked at the competitive landscape of other businesses in your industry and thought about how can I gain a competitive advantage or surpass an excellence of performance relative to someone else, you're operating with that, what we call ego orientation. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when I talk about outperform the norm, and what I'm really hoping you get out of the next 45 minutes is the second part, and it's what we call the mastery orientation. And the mastery orientation, as simplistic as it sounds, is to just think about how can I be a better leader, better today than I was yesterday, better tomorrow than I was today, and what do I need to do to make that happen? But one of the things Joe talked a lot about in his morning address was narratives, right? And basically narratives and word choices. And I often will look at this. I have a larger kind of poster of this hanging in my office. But a lot of times I will ask my personal coaching clients, I will just say, are you on the right side? Like, look at it. If you look at it left and right, I will just say, are you on the right side? Meaning that, are you on the side of outperform? But interestingly enough, I mean, the word choices and the things that we say to ourselves every single day are so critically important. And when we talk about narratives, like the psychological term that we would use for that is what we call explanatory style, where things happen to us early on and we develop a specific style and a way of explaining the things that have happened or have not happened in our lives. And it affects what we say to ourselves and how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if you're with me on this, but I truly believe that the greatest opponent we will ever face in life is ourselves. And if we can win the mental game of life, we've won the hardest game there is to win. If we're talking about courageous leadership, to me, you look at the people that we really follow in any position. It's usually because they're showing up, and they're showing up without any worries or fears or insecurities, and they are just comfortable in their own skin, and they are showing up as the best version of themselves. And I actually think to be able to do that for all of us as leaders, to be able to show up that way in the world is a heroic and is a very courageous act. And there's a specific way that we can do it. And one of the tools and strategies I've used with not only athletes, but I've seen with every different type of business leader, is what we call the concept of an alter ego. When you really break it down, they are actually enhancing the quality of people's lives. They're not only taking them out of pain, but so much of your health is related to oral health. They're making people's lives better. So when we look at connecting to a purpose, I think especially with the younger generation, millennials and otherwise, they want to feel like they are part of something that is good and worthwhile and communal and is doing something for humanity. And if you were to just break it down on the most basic level of what you really do for people, that's ultimately how you convey your purpose. And it's the day-to-day, why do we exist? Why do we show up every day and bust our butt? Why do we do these things? Well, this is why. Simpler language in communication actually matters, and it matters big time. And the other part, kind of in simplifying the vision, is using metaphorical language. Like you look at it, okay, Steve Jobs, all right? I think most of the people in this room, you're similar age to me, where you probably remember tapes. Like we used to have weight room tapes when I would lift weights before school. And then you remember CDs and you remember different things like that. What could you get on a tape? Like maybe 6 or 8 songs on a side, something like that. Then you'd have to flip it over. And when Steve Jobs was introducing the iPod, what did he say? He said, I'm going to take 1,000 songs, I'm going to put it in your pocket. And for anybody that had lived through tapes and had lived through Walkmans and Discmans and CDs, it was such a powerful metaphor. It's like, whoa, you're going to be able to take 1,000 songs, you're going to be able to put that in my pocket? Martin Luther King Jr., if you know his I Have a Dream speech, he has a line in there where he talked about the Negro people who have been cut a bad check. A check that's going to be marked or I think returned as insufficient funds. Another, that's a powerful thing where we can all relate to, whoa, insufficient funds, a bad check. We get that metaphorical language. For any of you Minnesota Golden Gophers fans, I think of like PJ Fleck, football coach from Minnesota. When he's selling the vision to his team of great teamwork and returning the Gophers football program to glory, he's not talking about X's and O's. He's talking about row your boat. That's his thing, row your boat. So as you're communicating a big picture vision to this is where we are now, and if we all come together as a team, as a company, as an organization, and we move towards this thing, this is what it will look like in simple, metaphorical language that people can understand. If you do this, promise it's going to help you as a leader. And there's a simple 4-step strategy, whether it's for you or something that you could potentially use with your team or teach to your team. It's what we call an ARCO strategy. But ARCO is basically, the first one, as simple as it sounds, is to just acknowledge the change. Like either acknowledge that a change has happened or kind of what I just said, if I would come back next year, 3 years, 5 years from now, acknowledge that change is going to happen. It's just literally the lens with which we see the world. For those of you that are from Minnesota, you probably know St. Olaf University, right? I'm an adjunct professor there, taught a couple of years of intro to sport and exercise psychology. I used to show a TED Talk there that was based around stress and change and people's perception of it. There's hard scientific research that basically shows if you perceive change or adversity as something that, well, this shouldn't be happening to me, I don't know why this is happening to me, and play that card, it will literally take years off of your life. As opposed to, well, I don't necessarily love that this change is happening. I don't love that I'm going through this, but I know that I've got the goods, the intestinal fortitude kind of and the wherewithal to be able to overcome it.